Hello there, Professor Warsi here. Today, I have a lesson for you that's probably one of the longest lessons I have ever curated for my students. But today's lesson is important because if you have taken my previous lessons on what a controversial topic is, what a cogent argument is, then or how to write a thesis statement for an argumentative essay, this is very important for you because this lesson will teach you what logical fallacies are. Our learning objectives today are to identify common logical fallacies, explain why these fallacies weaken arguments, improve argumentation skills, and apply this knowledge to analyze arguments and avoid using fallacies. So you may be wondering, what are logical fallacies? Well, by definition, a logical fallacy is an error in reasoning that weaken an argument. And as I've just said, it's important to understand fallacies because they help us improve our critical thinking and debate skills. But today, since there are 30 logical fallacies that I'll go over with you, what I will do is something different than what I have been doing so far. I will just introduce a logical fallacy to you, give you a definition, and maybe go over just one example in the interest of time, and then let you do the rest by yourself. Right? As students, English language learners, you need to think for yourself also to improve your critical thinking skills. I need you to read the last part of each logical fallacy, why it's a fallacy, where I have explained it to you, why it is wrong to think that way, especially when you're arguing, either when you're speaking to somebody or when you're writing an academic paper, especially an argumentative essay. All right, a straw man fallacy. A straw man fallacy occurs when someone misrepresents, twists, distorts, or tells a mistruth to make it easier to attack. So we should have stricter regulations on pollution. And person B says, so you want to shut down all factories and put everyone out of work? Person A did not propose or did not argue for shutting down factories. So that's a fallacy. Okay? Now read the other two examples and read why it's a fallacy. Number 3, an appeal to authority. And it often happens when people think they have the power, they have the authority to tell people what to do. A famous actor says this diet works, so it must be the best way to lose weight. All right? You may have experienced maybe some parents, especially the tough ones, the ones that are very strict, they say, do this. And you ask, why dad? Or why mom? Why should I do it? And they said, because I said so. Or because I told you to do so. That's an appeal to authority fallacy. All right? Number 4, a false dilemma, black or white fallacy. And politicians do this sometimes. Sometimes even some professors may do this, give you only 2 choices and conveniently ignore that there might be a third or a fourth choice even. So you are either with us or against us. And that leaves the people with only one choice. And that choice is actually not possible because if you are against, then there will be consequences. Correct? So read why it's a fallacy and ask me any questions if you have. Number 5, a slippery slope fallacy. What's a slippery slope? It occurs when an argument suggests that a relatively small first step or action will inevitably lead to a chain of related actions or events. So something like, if we allow students to redo their assignments, next they will want to retake entire courses. And that's just faulty reasoning. That's not a logical reason. Read why it's a fallacy and understand why it's a fallacy, right? A hasty generalization. Now, the word hasty in English means acting too fast without thinking, right? A hasty generalization is when someone makes a broad or sweeping conclusion based on maybe one incident, or a biased evidence. It involves drawing conclusions about a whole population or situation. So let's go over the first example. The first example is I met two people from New York and they were rude. New Yorkers must be rude. Now, do you agree? Are you convinced? Is that a good argument based on just two people? I live in New York and I'm not rude. I'm very kind and considerate, especially to my students and the people who are in my life. So one cannot generalize that because one person or two people from New York, they were rude, therefore all New Yorkers must be rude. That's wrong, wouldn't you say? Right. Number 7 is circular reasoning. It begs the question. Circular reasoning occurs when the argument's conclusion is assumed in its premise. So, for example, if a person says, I am right because I'm never wrong, that's faulty thinking, correct? We all know we can all be wrong. I have been wrong many times. So that is not a good argument. Read why it's a fallacy and understand this logical fallacy. Number 8 is post hoc. It's a false cause. So the post hoc fallacy, also known as false cause, occurs when one event is mistakenly assumed to cause another. Like example, I wore my lucky socks and won the game, so the socks must have been the reason I won. Or this person is so superstitious that whenever they play another match, they wear the same socks, thinking, oh, because they're my lucky socks, I'll win again. And that may not be the case. Read why it's a fallacy and understand. Number 9 is an appeal to emotion logical fallacy. So when does that occur? When an argument relies on manipulating the audience's emotions rather than presenting logical reasons, fact, rationale, evidence to support a claim. Now, remember, politicians, I know I keep saying politicians, but even sometimes your best friend or even a professor or your parents, they can manipulate your emotions. They say you should donate to this charity. Let's say it's the CEO or director of a non-for-profit organization. It says if you donate to this charity because thousands of children are starving, you must because I need your help. That's not enough. It's just all appealing to people's emotions. All right? So look under why it's a fallacy. Emotional manipulation distracts from the issue, weakens critical thinking. Read all 3 and then draw your own conclusions. A bandwagon fallacy. What's a bandwagon fallacy? This type of fallacy occurs when an argument suggests that something is true because everyone else is doing it, right? And that is erroneous. That's an error in logic. Everyone is buying this new smartphone, so it must be the best one on the market. Do you think that's correct? You can think of a very popular smartphone, and some people buy it only because everyone is buying it or it's very popular. There might be other smartphones that are probably better than this one, the one that is very popular. So that is a bandwagon fallacy. All right. A red herring. A herring is a fish. What's a red herring? A red herring occurs when someone introduces an irrelevant topic or distraction to divert attention away from the original issue. People who do not have a good argument, they make this error in logic. They use a red herring argument. So let's say climate change is real. Unfortunately, some powerful leaders believe, or maybe they do know that it's real, it's a crisis, but they deny it. So they will say something like, why worry about climate change when there are so many people struggling with poverty? Like, let's take care of the poor people. Let's just not worry about climate change. And that's serious because climate change does affect people's living conditions. All right? Moving forward. Tu quo qui. What is tu quo qui? The tu quoque fallacy, it means you too, Latin for you too. It is akin to someone saying, well, I hit my child because you hit your child too. That's a very wrong type of justification or rationale. You tell me smoking is bad for my health, but you smoke too. People do this very often. When you criticize someone, they will attack you, right? They will say, you too. How come you tell me that's, hypocritical of you? All right, read why it's a fallacy and consider the examples. Number 13, oversimplification. Oversimplify, just as in overeat, eating too much. What's an oversimplification? Oversimplification is when a complex issue is reduced to a simple cause and effect relationship, ignoring important factors. So, violent video games cause crime. But that's simplifying it, right? Because crime is a very complicated issue. Violent video games cause crime, ignores that it's only violence that is causing crime. But violence is influenced by many factors, right? There are so many other factors, such as socioeconomic conditions, education, and mental health. It's not just video games. So look at the other two examples. You will see why violent video games cause crime is an oversimplification. Okay? Number 14, a false equivalence. So what's a false equivalence? This type of logical fallacy occurs when two things are inaccurately compared, right? Because maybe on the surface they look similar, but in reality they're not. Like, eating junk food is just as bad as smoking cigarettes. Now, it's a given that, eating junk food is not healthy, but smoking cigarettes is worse. It can give a person, the smoker, lung cancer. So that's a false equivalence. They are not equal, the two things that are being compared. Now read why it's a fallacy and consider the examples again. Number 15, we are halfway through. If you have come this far, I thank you for your patience and allowing yourselves to be agitated by these logical fallacies and thinking to yourself, I don't want to be making these mistakes when I write a paper. So number 15 is an appeal to nature. What's an appeal to nature logical fallacy? This appeals to nature fallacy when it's argued that something is good, something is right, or something is better simply because it's natural. And by the same token, something is bad or wrong because it's unnatural. Let's look at one example. This medicine is all natural, so it must be better than synthetic drugs. Now, that is not true. Eating only organic foods is the healthiest choice because they are natural. That's also not true. Read why it's a fallacy, and we will move on. If you think this is too much information for you, of course, you can pause the video at any point and give yourself the time to digest this information. Okay, number 16 is an anecdotal evidence logical fallacy. But an anecdote is usually a personal story, a personal experience. And this type of fallacy occurs when personal stories or isolated examples are used as evidence to support a general conclusion. So people say, well, that happened to me, but that doesn't mean that the same thing will happen to other people, correct? My grandmother smoked her whole life and lived to 90. Therefore, smoking can't be that bad for you, and that's just a justification for smoking. Right? A person is saying, yeah, sure, I smoke, but my mother smoked and my grandmother smoked. Right? And she lived to 90 and 94. That's a logical fallacy. Number 17, no true Scotsman. What does that mean? It's a fallacy when someone defends a generalization by dismissing counterexamples as not being true. No true Scotsman would ever commit a crime. Maybe because Scotsmen usually do not commit a crime, but that does not mean or prove that no Scott ever commits a crime. Right? That is not logical at all. Okay. Why it's a fallacy? Read the rest and think. Think critically. Number 18. A non sequitur logical fallacy. What's a non sequitur, you say? Is Latin for it does not follow. Correct? So here, let's look at an example. If we can send a man to the moon, we should be able to cure cancer by now. No, the first proposition does not follow the second proposition. I'll give you one more example that will help you understand. Let me see. I say all linguists have long hair. Then I say to you, John is a linguist. Therefore, John has long hair. Therefore, John is a linguist. Right? It doesn't follow. That's a non sequitur. Okay, number 19. Self-fulfilling prophecy. You are what you think. Correct? People usually say you are what you eat, but I'm changing it to, because the mind is very powerful. A self-fulfilling prophecy occurs when a belief or expectation about a situation or person leads to action that causes the belief to come true. So in this context, right, because I'm a professor, I teach at college. In this context, students often say, this is too hard. I can't do this. Or I will not pass this class. I think I'm going to fail this class. Well, they're creating their own reality. That's a self-fulfilling prophecy. The same student can say, this is hard, this is challenging, but I am sure if I work hard, right, work harder, then I'll pass this class. So self-fulfilling prophecy could be right or wrong, could be positive or negative. Okay? So that is number 19. Number 20 is card stacking. What is card stacking, you ask? It's a fallacy in which only selective information is presented. Right? Leaders of countries do that. They purposely ignore facts or a reality, and they only present partial truth to the citizens, fully knowing that there is another view or there is another fact. This diet plan guarantees weight loss, as many users report rapid results, but conveniently it leaves out the fact that many people experience health problems or fail to maintain the result. So what happens? In this case, this diet plan guarantees weight loss. So the person is giving you only one side of the coin, or telling you just one side, there is another side. So only the positive testimonials are highlighted. There may be some reaction, right, to this diet plan, maybe, but the negatives are not for the benefit of the manufacturer or whoever is proposing this diet or pushing it, marketing it. Okay, so that's a fallacy. You need to read and understand why it's a fallacy. A card stacking is used very frequently by politicians that tell the citizens of a country only partial truth. Card stacking. All right, number 21 is ad ignorantium. What is that? It's a fallacy that appeals to ignorance. It occurs when it's agreed that a claim is true because it has just not been proven false. Okay? Or that a claim is false because it has not been proven true. Let's look at one example to understand this fallacy. No one has ever proven the extraterrestrials do not exist, so they must be out there. Now, there is a lack of evidence there. Just because you haven't experienced something, it doesn't mean it does not exist. Correct? No one has ever proven that extraterrestrials don't exist, so they must be out there. Or by the same way, as I just said that if you haven't experienced anything, it doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. Or, well, that's the same way of giving some logical reasoning to a proposition. Okay? So read why it's a fallacy and consider the examples again, and be sure that you're not making these errors. Okay, post hoc ergo propter hoc. What is that? Right? It's a fallacy. It's in Latin it means after this, therefore because of this. I wore my lucky socks and my team won the game. My socks must have caused the win. I think we covered this previously, but I'm reinforcing this idea. All right? Ad baculum is appeals to force. It's a logical fallacy. Why is it a logical fallacy? This type of fallacy occurs when someone uses threats, force, or someone intimidates others to persuade. Okay? If you don't agree with my proposal, you'll be fired. And imagine a boss saying this to her or his subordinates, that you must agree. It's my proposal, and if you do not agree, I'll fire you. You will lose this job. That's ad baculum. Okay? All right. Number 24. We're almost there, so thank you for staying with me. I know this is a long lesson, but this is so important for you. So it's in your own interest to complete the lesson so you can apply your recently acquired knowledge, right? Application of your knowledge. Ad misericordiam. Now, what is this? That's a Latin for appeal to pity. When someone tries to win an argument by evoking empathy or pity rather than providing logical reasoning, right? Imagine a person applying for a job, and rather than proving their credentials that they are a deserving candidate, they have the experience that the employer is looking for, they try to use ad misericordiam, misery. You should give me the job because I have a family to feed and lots of bills to pay. What are the chances of this candidate getting this job? Do you think this person will get the job? Do you think the employer will hire this applicant? Probably not, right? Okay. Number 25. Ad populum. What type of fallacy is this? It occurs when a claim is considered true simply because many people believe it, right? Like many people believe in a unicorn. There's no unicorn. I have never seen one, and you will never see one. Millions of people believe in astrology, so it must be true. Just because 10 million people believe in something, right? It's their belief. It doesn't mean it is true. Okay? And this type of logical fallacy is used in many cultures, many countries, many societies. It's a logical fallacy. Just think about what you have been taught to believe in and then ask yourself, does this make sense? Is this logical? Okay? A bandwagon. I think we went over this before, but again, because this type of logical fallacy occurs more and more in my students' papers, without realizing they, make a bandwagon error, logical error. Everyone is investing in this cryptocurrency, so you should too. You must buy this cryptocurrency, but because a lot of people are buying it. That's a bandwagon logical fallacy. Number 27 is begging the question. I think we went over this before. Let's look at the second example. We know that ghosts are real because people have seen them. I have never seen a ghost, and I hope I will never see a ghost. I do not believe that ghosts exist. I've given you the image. Behind me, you see the picture of a chair and a hand. That is supposed to be a ghost's hand, but it's a fallacy. Number 28 is equivocation. This occurs when a key term or phrase is in an argument is used with different meanings. What does that mean? This type of logical fallacy leads to misleading or invalid conclusions. Consider one example. A bank is a financial institution, and a bank is also the side of a river, right? A river bank, for example. Therefore, the side of a river must be a financial institution. Now, that's very bad. That's a really, really poor logic. There's no logical fallacy. Just because two different things are called the same thing, there's the same word applies to two different things, doesn't mean that they're the same. Okay? All right. So far, so good. We have two more and we'll be done, but we will not really be done because then I'll give you some exercises to practice. Remember, you're learning. This is all new information. This is new knowledge. So you need to apply what you just learned with me. Number 29 is loaded language, right? Language that is loaded. What does that mean? What does loaded language mean, you ask? The loaded language fallacy occurs when emotionally charged or biased language is used to influence the audience's opinion, rather than giving them evidence, convincing evidence, credible evidence, so that they believe the speaker, or in the case of a reader, they believe the writer. They say, oh, this writer has convinced me. She or he has presented solid evidence. Consider one example. We must stop these greedy corporations from exploiting the innocent workers. And there is an explanation of greedy, exploitation, innocent. They're all emotionally charged. That's a very, very strong type of logical fallacy. Strong words, emotional words. Second example, the government is wasting taxpayers' money on frivolous, unnecessary programs. Consider the explanation, right? And pay attention to the words. Frivolous, unnecessary, wasting. These are all very strong words to manipulate people's feelings. Number 30, reductio ad absurdum. What is this type of fallacy? It occurs when an argument is taken to an extreme, or absurd, nonsensical, it makes no sense, to disprove it. So let's say that a person is anti-gay marriage, and they say if we allow same-sex marriage, next people will want to marry their pets. That's incoherent, right? That's not a cogent argument. That's a very bad argument. Okay, so I am very, very proud of you that you have come this far. I agree that was a very long lesson and a lot of information for you to process. Let's do an exercise. Identify the logical fallacy in the argument. Suppose someone is making this argument and is saying, how can you argue that smoking is harmful when your grandmother smoked his entire life and lived to 90? This should ring a bell because that's the example I gave you to understand a type of fallacy. Can you identify which fallacy it was, the logical fallacy in this argument? Here is the answer, right? So I'm giving you exercises with answers. So you can think for yourself and say, yes, I was right. I did it right. And then you will be so proud of yourself. Okay, exercise 2. Again, there is an argument. Either we ban all cars immediately to stop climate change, or the planet is doomed. There's an explanation for it, why it is incorrect or faulty reasoning. Yeah? Great. Okay, exercise 3. Again, I have given you the explanation. Your task was to read the argument. Of course, we must be right about the economy. After all, he's been an economist for 30 years. Look at the explanation. Just because someone is doing something for a long, long time, it does not mean they cannot be wrong. Right? Okay. Very good. So read the explanation again. Exercise 1. Again, I'm giving you a whole bunch of exercises. I need you to do this. This requires writing, not just thinking or listening. Read the following statements. How can you say that eating healthy is important when you're overweight? You obviously don't practice what you preach. Can you see the logical fallacy in this statement and rewrite the statement to remove the logical fallacy? I think this will be a very good practice for you to become a good writer. All right? So I have rewritten the statement for you. The one is much better. It removes the logical fallacy and it seems logical, more convincing. Okay. Exercise 2. There's an original statement. There's a task for you. And I have also given you a rewritten statement. But try not to just read the statement, the one that I have rewritten for you. Think and then rewrite your own sentence. Look at the logical fallacy, Perhaps you can use my rewritten statement as a model and then write your own sentence. Okay, exercise 3. Of course, he must be right about climate change. After all, he's been studying it for 40 years. Or, of course, he's been an environmental scientist for 15 years, so he must be right. Can you rewrite this statement and remove the logical fallacy? Here's one example for you. For all these exercises, you may want to pause the video, give yourself some time to think, read these statements, identify the logical fallacy, and then rewrite them. There are some real life examples. So when you are driving, for example, you see an ad, right? Or you're reading the newspaper and it's an article that you're reading, or a social media post. Write down the example, and then your job is to identify the fallacy. Is it correct? Is it logical? Is it sound reasoning? And then perhaps maybe you can even look at some statements that other people make. It doesn't have to be a newspaper. It could be a textbook maybe, or an article, an op-ed, a column. Okay? So try to do this. If you were with me in a physical classroom, we would do an activity. I'll break you up into small groups, and then we'll have a debate on a controversial issue. Okay, reflection questions for you to think hard. Which logical fallacy is most common in everyday conversations? Have you ever used a fallacy without realizing it? So sometimes you're not even aware that you're making a bad argument, because people have such strong beliefs. They think, yeah, I'm right. There's nothing wrong with this type of argumentation. And if you identify, especially in your written work, if you have written something and you say, this is not really correct, this is not making sense, how can you improve your reasoning? All right? And so before we wrap this up, let's look at some key takeaways. What are some of the points that I went over with you today? Logical fallacies weaken arguments, right? Logical fallacies do not make strong arguments. And for you as a speaker or a writer, recognizing logical fallacy helps improve critical thinking. So before you write and revise and write the final draft of your paper and submit it to your professor, ask yourself, have I made cogent argumentation in this essay? Is my argument based on logic, or is it faulty? Is it a fallacy? All right? So again, this was a long lesson. You may want to do it piecemeal, like study maybe 10 logical fallacies, and then write down the examples, rewrite some of the statements to remove the logical fallacy, and then on a second attempt, do 10 more and 10 more. So thank you for taking this lesson with me. Work hard, and I will see you in the next lesson. Bye-bye.